Hey, how's it going, everyone? Before we get into this next episode of the Falconry Chronicles podcast, I just want to remind everyone that registration is still live for the next spring rendezvous held in Boise, Idaho by the Archives of Falconry. It's April 18th to the 20th, and the theme of this year's rendezvous is the Quarry of Falconry. The event is going to include a film screening hosted by renowned wildlife photographer, an amazing lineup of speakers, and a special reception and discussion about avian flu. And it's also going to have the Wall of Remembrance induction, banquet, and more. So if you're interested in attending, please register at falconry.org. Spots are filling up fast, so you definitely don't want to miss out. And if you're in the market for a new hunting partner for next season, particularly a parent-reared North American Finnish or Russian goshawk, definitely keep Seth Roy in mind. Hit him up at northmountaingoshawks.com, or you can hit him up at North Mountain Goshawks on Facebook, or send him an email at ostringer3@gmail.com. He produces really nice game hawks, and he can also do ISs for imprints as well, but he specializes in parent-reared goshawks, so if you're in the market, definitely hit him up and get on that list before it fills up. Okay, on to this next episode of the Falconry Chronicles podcast.
We were out in the Calvinia area, which is out in the greater Karoo. And I walked with the lanner up to into a little gorge, and there's these wild rock pigeons sitting on a cliff, and put her up, and I had some tremendous stoops down that cliff face with her, and just even though she didn't catch, because you can see those Rockies were hunted before by wild birds, so they know exactly where to go when they come off that cliff face. So they've got their little escape routes and bushes where they go into.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back for another episode of the Falconry Chronicles podcast, and this episode is going to briefly take us all back to South Africa, where I was at last summer, and my guest for this episode, Charl, was a pretty interesting guy to get to know. He was a pilot for a long time, and he's also relatively new into the sport of falconry, so it was nice getting a chance to hear from a relatively new falconer from the Western Cape area and kind of get what his experience was like getting into falconry, and it was nice getting a chance to get to know him. He was also nice enough to host me for a couple days as well, so thank you again for that, Charl. And I'm just going to go ahead and turn things over to this conversation and hope you enjoy. Here we go. Yeah, so the brandy that you all have introduced me to this week has been pretty potent, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it's a blend that Edmund conjures up at his farm, and it's really, really good. I think it borders on almost a cognac.
Yeah, is that the same brandy that I won last night? I won brandy from him.
That is true.
Is it the same one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know my family is going to be kind of in for a surprise. My dad and my stepmom and that side of the family, they like trying new things, so to speak, especially wine. So yeah, I'll probably bring that and share it at one of our next family functions. They'll have a good time with it, I think.
I think share carefully, because they might just like it so much that you might not see it again.
That's something that is very much kind of a given. Anytime you bring alcohol at all over to one of our family functions, especially on my dad's side, it's going to get drink. It's fine.
It's made to be drunk, so.
You have similar experiences with your side of the family in that regard, or?
No, we quite light on the consumption values. We enjoy the good old wine and scotch on the rocks, etc. But and the odd beer. So,
yeah. No, it's been nice being able to experience a lot of what Africa has to offer, especially South Africa, in such a short amount of time. I mean, I wish I had more time, but
there's never enough time.
Yeah, no, there's never enough time, unfortunately. I wish that I had another week to spend here and just kind of get a gist of how things are. But I mean, this has been a pretty good week so far. I mean, despite the weather earlier in the week and stuff, I've seen some decent flights. And I mean, what have you gotten a chance to see this week?
I came in a bit later. I arrived Wednesday morning, and I saw the flight with the Lanner Falcon, and then of course my Joe Peregrine. I found an injury underneath the wing, so that just consumed all of my time. So I didn't really get time to get out in the field as much as I wanted to, because it turned into a whole nursing exercise and healing exercise. So.
Yeah, I vaguely remember you went into town with Kyle to get some vet stuff, right?
That's correct, yeah. So by the looks of it, what's happened, we're trying to determine, it's at a very funny spot between the elbow and the shoulder, right underneath. And, it's a place where you don't pick up injuries, where you don't see it visually. And luckily when I had on the glove, and when she lifted her wings, I just saw this very bad spot. So I think she probably hit a fence wire somewhere, and the bobbed wire maybe just pricked her. And last week she had a tussle with a peregrine falcon, airborne tussle, so maybe a talon just went in and it's caused an infection. And because it's out of sight, you don't see it. So, but luckily we picked it up yesterday. And it was quite an advanced phase already of deterioration, but luckily it's been picked up, and, I'm fortunate to have 3 vets on site here. She's on a good antibiotic dose, and all the possible meds we can give her has been given. So I'm just resting her now. I'm not flying her. But to get back to the question, just trying to sort her out, limited my time in the field. So she's on the mend now. So the next day or two, I'll try and get out more with the guys.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's been really enlightening, and it's been really enlightening seeing just some of the different way you all fly, the different prey base that you have here. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that in a lot of ways it's similar to how a lot of those things have been flown in the States. But I as I've told many of the other guys, and I know you probably don't know, like, geographically kind of where I'm from. I mean, in general you might, but like where I'm from, there's not really a lot of long wings being flown, or hardly any, really, because where I live, it's not a lot of open areas. It's a lot of woodland areas and things. And so we don't have a lot of wide open areas that are suited for what a lot of people, I think, would consider traditional long wing flights. Okay. But, I'm still trying to think of ways that I could fly along lower pitches, things like dove and
you use more broad wings or short wings?
Yeah. We use more short wings and budios, and your and even your parabudios, Harris Hawks and things. I mean, where I'm at, it's pretty much mostly accipiters, a lot of goshawks, a lot of Harris Hawks, and red tails. Okay. That's pretty much predominantly where I'm at. So where are you from originally around here?
Born and bred in Cape Town.
Yeah.
And that's where I went to school and spent most of my life. My career took me away for about 22 years, and I returned in 2010. I came back, so lucky to be back home. I love Cape Town. It's just a beautiful part of not just South Africa, but of the world as well.
I've been very impressed by it.
Yeah. There's just something about it, where the two oceans, the Indian and the Atlantic, meet, and it's got a diverse cultural history, and good wines and good people, and it's just a lovely place to be.
Well, and I've always favored mountains more than oceans, but if you got two right in the same spot, that's what the thing that I've noticed, like that I've loved the most about seeing this area is just, you guys have a lot of amazing scenery all in one area. You don't have to travel very far to see it.
No, you don't. You have the whole package, and if you just cross the mountain range, you in semi-desertous areas as well. So you don't have to travel far to see, the other more open landscapes, if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so, I mean, you briefly mentioned your career. I mean, what has kind of taken you in around, all over these different places, like for so long? I mean, what did you do for a career?
I fell in love with aviation at a very young age, but still as a youngster in primary school. And I was blessed and fortunate enough to pursue that as a career. So I've been in it for 30 years. And did corporate flying out of different parts of the country. Cape Town is not really a hub aviation-wise, so most of the real flying is done up in the Gauteng, Johannesburg area. So I flew for 2 companies out of the central parts of the country for a couple of years, and then got into semi-military flying for the South African Police Air Wing, where I spent about 5 years in Petersburg. A lot of operational flying on the border up that side. And then I got transferred to Pretoria, Joburg, where I spent another 6 years with them. Different kind of flying. And then in between that, I flew for the United Nations, again, more corporate flying. And then my last 13 years has been with the airlines. I flew for Kulula and British Airways up till 2020. So it's been a journey.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, I mean, I flew British Airways coming in, so that's funny. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's so you're kind of one of these guys then that you kind of were fascinated by flying kind of from an early age, and that's kind of
has been. But the way I got into the whole falconry scenario was quite interesting because. When I had the air wing in Petersburg, flying for the police, I wanted to try and get into falconry there. And then, but it's such a closed, I wouldn't say closed community, but it's such a specialized and small community. So it's very difficult to get hold of people, number one. And then secondly, when I did a bit of research, I realized that, if we're out for operation on the border for 3 or 4 days, it's not conducive to falconry. So that didn't work. But if we go back to 94, I flew in Bloemfontein for a company, and the mate that flew with me in the company, he was at school with Charl Lotriet. And he introduced me to Francois, and I'll never forget it. When I walked into his house, there was a falcon sitting on the table, and I was just taken with it. And we had a chat and blah, blah. And obviously that was 94, so... I was stuck smack bang in the middle of my career, so Flying Falcons was out. And so lo and behold, in 2020, after all of that time, that same friend came and visited me in Cape Town. And I haven't seen Francois since 94. And Christo said he just wants to pop in at Francois quickly. I said, but what's Francois doing in Cape Town? He said, no, he's been living here for 8 to 10 years already. And we went to his house, and lo and behold, opened the front door, and there was a falcon sitting on the table. He was busy imping it. And I stopped flying in 2020. So when it's almost like it was sent over my path, because I was a bit concerned, with the flying that stopped. What am I going to do now? Because I believe, if a man sits, a man dies. And I had a good chat with Francois, and I think most experienced falconers, especially like him, he's got years of experience there. They go, yeah, I want to see this one go, because most of the guys they're interested, but they never follow through with it. And I just stuck to my guns because I'm passionate about it, and that's how I got into it. And here I am, still a youngster, an old youngster in falconry. So I've been in it for almost 3 years. And it's an incredible journey.
Yeah, in my area, there's been a lot of older guys that's gotten into it recently.
Yeah.
And a lot of older apprentices. Some even they're in their 50s, 60s.
Yes.
fairly older guys. And I kind of am in awe somewhat of people that kind of get into this even when they're older. I look back on things and I know that if logistically speaking, it would have been impossible for me to get into this when I was younger, even if I knew it existed.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm always kind of in somewhat of admiration, and I've told some of these guys that I hawk with that just got into it recently at an older age. I'm like, I don't know how you guys do it, because I think if I got into it at an older age, I probably wouldn't be able to do it much more than they're doing it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, talking about guys that have had like multiple like knee, hip surgeries, things like that, and,
that is true. And especially with the Cape Town Falconry Club, I think the original traditions are still in place where they put you through a very good apprentice program where, irrespective of your age, they still expect apprenticeship tasks. So if there's a braai, you'll go and make the fire. And, I think it's just part of a nice tradition, even where age almost doesn't come into the equation, where they want to see whether you are willing to contribute and help. And if you're going to be a team player, and I think falconry is, as it can be a very solitary, experience with just you and your hawk in the field, it can also be like meets like this, where you must be able to communicate and go out with the guys and fly together. So I think the apprenticeship program is essential, and especially the way they structure it. They're very open-minded about it. So I think if anybody comes in with it half-heartedly, the 12-month apprenticeship would serve out, I think, 90% of the guys.
Well, and it often does. And it's kind of the same thing in the U.S. too. I mean, you mentioned, part of the people that are interested in it, you never hear from them ever again after the initial phone call and after like one hunt, and they see how much goes into it. And it does weed out a lot of people that otherwise wouldn't be serious enough to kind of pursue it seriously.
Yes.
But, in your experience, how many people have you encountered? Just in the short time that you've been in the sport, how many people have you encountered that have kind of come and gone?
I've seen 2 people in the last 2 years come in, join the club, start the apprenticeship, and I would say within 3 months, and the other one, I would say 6 months. I think, as you say, that the time is a very good indicator, or a very good it consumes a lot of your time. I think time is a big factor, especially for somebody that's got an 8 to 5 or a full-time job. And it also comes with financial implications. So I think, when you add those two in the mixing bowl and the amount of time you need to spend out there, and really you need to be dedicated to this. It's not a parrot you can put in a cage and say, okay, I'll go a week or 2 weeks later. It's a full-time, it's not even a hobby, it's a full-time passion.
Sure. And, just in the short time that you've been, in falconry, and just a short time that you've been in falconry, what have you experienced kind of on your end of things? How have things gone for you?
I started off with a Sipiter, African goshawk. It was a musket. I was actually unfortunate. I manned it and then did a couple of flights with it, and then it picked up a very bad dose of France. Nursed it for 2 weeks, nebulized. We did as much as we could, but he just didn't make it. So that actually didn't start off that well. And after that, I flew 2 lanners, which came out of a sanctuary, and then I flew a second one, and I just love the lanner falcons. I like the way they fly. I was more with them. It was more did a bit more thermal flying, and then I also had a fairly matured female goshawk, also from a rescue center, and she wasn't a good player or hunter in the field because she was fairly old already. But I got her to hunt in barns at night with the lights, and she would go into the farmers' barns and take pigeons. And of course, the pigeons in the farmers' barns and making a mess all over the equipment and the food, I was welcomed. So, and then I got the opportunity after the last lanner falcon the club approached me. I'm sure Andre used the term, I was a bit of probably still am an experiment, in the sense that traditionally, the way I understand is that you work yourself up through a whole program with different birds, and you do your gradings, and as you grade, you qualify for different birds. But the club is very open-minded, and they think out of the box, and I would almost say the argument was, listen, we're sitting with a guy that's 50 years old. If he has to do the whole falconry program with all the grading, I'll be in my 60s where I'll probably only qualify for a bird like this. And, as I said, they're very open-minded and thinking out of the box. And they said, okay, there's very good mentorship. I live in an area where I'm very close to a lot of A-grade falconers, very good mentors. And they said, well, let's give it a go. The commitment is there. We're very close. And the flying style, the long-wing flying, I love. So, yeah, that's where I'm now. And I've had her. She came out of the breeding project last year, September. So this year, September, she'll be a year old. So first-year bird.
Cool. Well, and kind of going back a little bit to some of the modifications, and, you mentioned being kind of an experiment and all that, like, kind of, if you don't mind, I mean, I've talked to several people this week about, kind of the rules and regulations and how things work with the structure and how falconry is here. But if you don't care, kind of just go in maybe just a little bit more detail or specifics about how kind of some of the experimental stuff that you're going through is different than like kind of how the rules or things were or now, or as far as, kind of the changes that are being made.
Well, the first one I would say would be traditionally you would spend, I would say, just fly a short wing or a recipient type bird for a season. Then you had to go to a meeting. So let's take somebody that's not in my position where there's a lot of highly experienced falconers around me. So that person would then fly his bird or her bird for a season and then go to a meet like SAFA or a Cape Falconry meet where they then fly the bird but also get assessed by the senior falconers. Then a grading would take place, and then if the grading is positive, that person can then progress to a different or higher level bird that's got completely different flying characteristics, for example, and then go back and repeat the same process, get another grading. And so that's why I said that whole process just takes a lot of time, going through the different speed bird types. So that could possibly take you 8 to 10 years. So the difference for me is I've got all of these experienced guys with me in the field all the time. So I grade it quicker because I'm with them all the time. So they can see the progression almost on a daily, on a weekly, or on a monthly basis, where another person would maybe only be exposed to them once or twice a year. So the bird that I've got now is an A-grade bird. So they said, let's do this. I was a B grade. And to fly this GA peregrine, you need to be an A grade. So they said, okay, what we're going to do is, with this experiment, let's not make him a full A grade, a fully fledged A grade, but let's make him a provisional A grade. But with a mentorship program that's attached to this provisional A. So there's conditions to it. So we can do this, but this is the way it's going to work. You're going to fly this bird with us, and we're going to give you a training regime or a training program, and then we'll monitor the situation and see how you and the bird develop together, and then we'll assess to see whether this project is working or it's not working. And I think the nice thing with that is no harm done to the bird, because there's so much supervision. If there's mistakes being made, they get rectified very quickly. If there's better ideas filtering into the system, they bring them up very quickly. So I think it's for someone at my age, it's actually a privilege to have that way of thinking around me out of the box. Where, I'm sure you'll have other clubs somewhere else in the world, or even in South Africa, where they'll just say, we stick to our guns and you stick with the program. And then you would technically never really have the opportunity to fly a bird like a geoperegrine if you are a bit later of age. So
there's no perfect system. And I've had this kind of conversation with other guys this week, and I have actually asked them, some of them anyway, the question of, well, if there was anything that you could change, or, I mean, is there anything in particular that you think, I mean, if it could be tweaked, I mean, what would it be? And it's kind of interesting that this kind of seems like it's kind of already happening in a way.
It is happening, yes.
Yeah, and I guess it's a good thing because, I mean, there are some guys that I think, could probably, with the right mentorship in place, readily available, and with the drive that they have, and if they are naturals and things like that, like, I do think that there are aspects of the South African system that you guys have here that would be kind of neat to have in the States to some degree, because I mean, with the way the States work, I mean, you spend your time as an apprentice, and then once you become a general, you can have these birds.
That's it.
And you don't necessarily have to have, I mean, someone who's smart will take it upon themselves and try and find a good resource to fly a species that you're interested in. I mean, hopefully you do have that person close by, whatever, but you don't necessarily have to. Yeah. And with the way your system is kind of structured, it's neat that you actually do have to have that. I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
So I mean, there's trade-offs to everything, but it's neat to hear that with the way things are and just what I've learned about how things work here in such a short amount of time, that people are willing to be a little bit malleable, and a little,
open-minded.
Open-minded, So I mean, that's cool. I mean, it's neat that you're getting that experience then.
It really is, and for me, we spoke about it earlier. How many people have I seen come and go, and in my short time, there was 2, but the falconry community for me is not a really expanding community. It's almost like it's not a rapidly growing environment. And I think if they go forward with the way they're trying to do things now, keep the quality, keep the mentorship where it is, you might find that, the falconry community over time will expand a bit more than it is now. And then the second thing is, I also think, some people are attracted to a species of bird, and some people are attracted to a type of flying style. So if you are attracted to a different, like a long wing, which is our kind of, or my kind of style of flying, which I like high and wide and far, and you start off the program with, let's say, an accipiter or a beauty or whatever, and you have to wait your 5, 6, 7, 8 years to get to what you really want to fly. You might find that, those people, although they become fully fledged falconers, that they don't see the whole program through to where they want to get to, because the time periods involved are just so long. So I think with this new system or experimental system where the quality, there's no influence on the quality, you might find that people that is aspiring to a different kind of flight style, a different species, I think that will be accessible in a shorter amount of time, providing that person probably is in the area where there is very good mentorship to oversee that process.
Yeah, and I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, there's some people that would probably have the argument, well, it's like, well, if I've put in the time and I've, been able to, I don't know, I show that I'm dedicated enough to do this, or this, then then even if I don't necessarily have a close resource, I should still be able to at least try to fly, even if I can find somebody that's not even local to kind of be a resource for me. I should be able to fly this species, but, at the same time, I mean, it at least provides food for thought. You know what I mean?
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, that's great though. I mean, to be able to fly that type of bird in such a short amount of time and be successful at it. And like you said, it's cool stuff.
Yeah, it is. I'm very privileged. And as I said, the guys are just open-minded. But as I said, it comes with a program. It's not a loose-end, open-ended system. It's this is the way it's going to work. This is the training program. For the first couple of flights or X amount of flights, you're flying with us. And then as you progress with a bird and they see that you're getting comfortable and the bird is adhering to what you wanted to do, then they slowly release you, but still never to a point where they'll just let you go. There's always input from their side, or come fly with us, or, tomorrow I want to go fly with you. So there's always a point where they're still monitoring it. They never just let go, it's a fantastic system. I think for me, because I'm so young in falconry, number one, although I'm confident alone in the field with a Jer, it's always nice to have an experienced guy with me, because I might be making subtle mistakes that my inexperience doesn't, show me, where that senior guy can say, listen, just change or tweak this a bit, or don't do that. So it's always nice to have that bit of oversight when you're out in the field.
And whenever you do go out and fly, is somebody always with you, or do you have enough trust now to where you can, or enough confidence and other people have enough trust in you to where you fly solo a decent amount of times? Or
yeah, I fly solo most of the times now. But it's also, other than being falconry members, we're also friends. So it is nice to see your friends, and sometimes we go out and make a little fire somewhere and put our birds up. And but I'm completely at ease. And with our legislation being an exotic bird, it has to have 2 transmitters on it. So, which I've got, and my one transmitter is a nice Marshall telemetry GPS. So that gives me a lot of peace of mind, and I found that it's given me a lot more self-confidence and knowing exactly where the bird is. Look, I went through the I wouldn't say old program, the program where you track with a traditional tracking system. Yeah. So I'm very comfortable with that, but the GPS just gives me, as a young falconer, or a new falconer, such more at ease. And I think when you're at ease, the bird's at ease. And where in the past I would make different decisions quicker, now I let the scenario play out, because I know exactly where the bird is and I can see what it's doing. And I think except for the confidence, it lessens the amount of mistakes you make on a flight. So, yeah, but to back to your question, I do most of my flying alone. And so I set this first 12 months, the program is just training the bird, and just to build a nice platform. So the program for me is a 3-year program. First year, just build, and then, as soon as she's intermediate, second, third year, we'll start looking at serious hunting. And I am showing her some wild game, just to get an idea of where she is. So yeah, that's, as I said, that's where we are with the program.
Cool. Yeah, no, that's a different insight for sure. And yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, you don't have to convince me about the worth of GPS. I've been sold on it for years now. Yeah. I mean, I've been a pretty avid Marshall GPS user since at least probably 2018, 2019. Yeah. So I mean, I've been using it for a while now, and I'm a huge fan. And yeah, I mean, and I like the people at Marshall too. You know,
I love it.
Yeah, they're great people, and yeah, it's something that I incorporate now without fail. I don't think I could go back at this point. And once you're spoiled by it, it's kind of, the only thing I'm kind of concerned about now is what they're going to put out next to kind of.
I want that.
yeah. I mean, the next thing that's going to come after it, which I have some suspicions, but
is it?
Yeah, okay. But at any rate, yeah. I mean, I can't say enough good things about Marshall and especially their customer service and the people there.
They're excellent. Mandy and the whole team.
Yep. They're very cool people.
Yeah, and I must say we've had a lot of Marshall sponsorships for this event, which was really great, and they are very supportive. Not just in the sponsorship, but as you say, if you've got a technical problem or questions, they're on it immediately, which is brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're always a phone call away or an email away, and but yeah, no, I mean, really cool stuff. I mean, like I said, I've always had nothing but great experiences with them, and they've been kind enough to, to sponsor us and stuff in the past. And yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I don't know how anybody could fly along. This stuff is available. I told this to Andre the other day, and I mean, circumstances are what they are, but man, it's just so nice being able to look at a phone or whatever device you have, and just be able to tell exactly where you're at.
It's a bit difficult for us in South Africa. We've got two problems. One is the shipping to South Africa is a real problem.
Yeah, the currency issues.
And then secondly, the currency is just running amok. So it's a very expensive tool to get in, and not everybody can afford it. And to get them secondhand, even then just to get them shipped here is also a problem,
This probably goes up in value.
That is true.
No, like I said, I'm sold on it and have been for a while. But that brings me to another question I kind of want to ask you, though, is, I mean, have your mentors kind of showed you the traditional ways of tracking a bird, though? I mean,
yes.
it's one thing to be spoiled by GPS, but it's also nice to know just the general, the sign, to follow.
Look, I started off, and I still fly normal scout telemetry as a backup system on my bird. So the club has they'll have like a weekend if there's new guys in the club or new aspiring people, where they'll take the guys out and say, okay, this weekend will just be a telemetry weekend, not a GPS telemetry weekend, where they'll actually take transmitters out, position them somewhere in the field or in another part of the town or on a farm, and then, okay, here's your receiver, go find. So just to hone those skills and, to get the guys comfortable with how it works over short and long distances, to really get to know the system well, because it's got its tricks, with sitting and flying birds and distances, etc. So definitely, and I don't think that I wouldn't recommend anybody to just fly GPS if they're not confident with the old system. I think it's paramount that they still keep that as part of their falconry equipment, and be confident and up to date with how to use it. Definitely yes, to answer your question.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely worthwhile to know, just the general stuff too. I mean, how people had to track birds back before even traditional beeps and
bells
everything else, and bells, and just knowing what to look for. And I mean, even when you have the technology available, it's not, like you said, it's not always pinpoint accurate. You still have to figure out sometimes, give or take a little bit of position to where your bird is.
Triangulate.
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and shift some focus then to, we always kind of talk about, favorite flights or, favorite experiences or memorable experiences that people have. And, I know that you've not been in the sport very long, but I'm sure at this point you've still got some memorable flights or experiences with a couple of the birds that you've flown. Just go ahead and share a couple of those if you don't care.
Well, they will be successful and unsuccessful, very nice flights. We were out in the Calvinia area, which is out in the Greater Karoo, and I walked with the lanner up to into a little gorge, and there's these wild rock pigeons sitting on a cliff, and put her up, and I had some tremendous stoops down that cliff face with her, and just, even though she didn't catch, because you can see those rockies were hunted before by wild birds, so they know exactly where to go when they come off that cliff face. So they've got their little escape routes and bushes where they go into. And then the Namakwa sandgrouse with us, a protected species. It's not just a huntable day by day a species. I got a permit through Cape Nature for a 2-month slot. They're quite on it. They want to know where, when, landowner's permission. And that specific lanner, I had a nice flight. She mounted up to 710 meters. and got some grouse up underneath it, and successful flight, got a sandgrouse, which is like almost for me a trophy flight, so that definitely stands out. But in general for me, whether successful flight hunting, whether they catch something or not, but if just that positioning, the pursuit, the stoop, the throw up, whether there's a kill involved or not, I would almost want to say that's the cherry on the top. That's the extra 5%. But the 95% is the whole falconry experience, being outside in the field with a bird, enjoying to see her fly, where she's going, how she's using the wind to get lift, to, pitch. And, and then, of course, the pursuit and all of that, just that whole experience makes it special. So most of my days in the field are just special. But as you say, you do have those ones that just really stand out. Yeah. So I would say those, especially the grouse, was, I would say, a highlight for me.
Cool. And was that bird that you were flying at that particular time probably one of the most memorable birds that you've flown so far then too? Or
yes, that was a lanner that we trapped. It was a wild take, obviously with permits and everything in place. And so a lovely bird. And I kept her for a season, and then when this avenue then started opening up, when the club said, listen, let's see where this can go. Think about it, what you want to do. They never force things. I mean, it's always just a nice open chat. Nothing is pressed into a corner. And, I like the long wing flying, but I really love the lanner mentality. They're so clever, and they really just tame down so nicely. But I thought myself, I was successful with her. I did fly. I did enjoy her. Give her back to nature, which I really enjoyed just giving them back. And then after that, obviously now the Geo Peregrine. So I've got part of my lanner back, but the flight style of the Peregrine. So I've got the best of both now. Happy man.
Awesome. Well, and as far as, what do you, I know you're going to kind of be occupied with this particular bird, for a while, but are there any other species that you look forward to flying in the future?
It's an interesting and also a good question, because when I had Eva, the lanner, I thought, and they came up with this. They said, well, you've got the option to keep as a provisional A grade. You can keep or always get another one later on. But, my thought train was of such a nature that I wanted to devote all my time and energy to one bird. If you have two, there always, I think, be a bit of a subtle favoritism somewhere. And with that goes a bit more time and a bit more. So, and then when I got this bird now, Storm, with the training and the new experiences, I think it's so premature for me that I'm so engulfed by this whole new, nice and lovely experience. I'm not really thinking that far. If I was presented with another bird now, I'll just say not now, because I would like to see this 3-year program through with just her. And if I'm confident going forward after another 2 or 3 years, then I think I'll open up and maybe think, what I want to do. I've always been a bit of a Harris fan hawk. A Harris hawk fan. And I think the nice thing with that is you've got 2 different hunting styles. So if you can't fly weather-wise the Geo, you can take the Harris out and go and have fun with that. You can go out in day and night. You've got a variety of species. Time will tell. But for the next 2-3 years, I think I'm going to be tied down to this bird.
That's probably a pretty good answer. Sometimes it's best not to look too far ahead.
No, just take every day as it comes.
Yeah, you can get sucked into to some to some unwanted rabbit holes, thinking about things that instead of focusing on the present sometimes. So,
but John, then something like this happens where your bird gets injured or nicked, and then there's infection, and if God forbids, if something happens to them and the bird passes away, then it forces your hand again, hey? So then what do you do then? Then it opens up the equation is completely open then. So as you say, I just take it day for day. I enjoy it thoroughly and try to do my best. But accidents happen, and they happen to them out in the wild, and they will happen with you as well.
Yeah.
So, their power lines are all over the world. Wild birds are there. They have a tussle in the air. Or, she can take something into ground and end up in a bush and get pierced by a twig, and you don't see it. There's an infection, So, as I said, this is just a day-for-day journey for me, and I really love it.
Yeah, all that stuff is just as much a part of falconry, unfortunately, than all the cool stuff.
Yeah, Charl Lotriet told me, and it's I'll never forget it. He told me two things, and it will stick with me until I die. The one was that falconry takes you places, and it surely does. I think personally and also geographically, you'll go to places which you've never seen. And then the second thing he said was, and that's also very true, in falconry, you'll have the highest highs, but also the lowest lows. And, for me, losing a bird is the lowest of lows. Releasing a bird is a very happy experience for me. He really, being successful with a bird and giving it back to nature. It's almost like, it's full circle. So, high highs and low lows, and those are absolute truths.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a very common theme in falconry, and one that we've talked about many times, and we'll talk about many more, I'm sure. But, I want to go ahead and end on the same note that I have been ending on with a lot of falconers. And, from your point of view, it'd probably be more from the new, up-and-coming falconer perspective of things. But what piece of advice would you like to give, like the current and up-and-coming, generations of falconers?
Well, if I would say, it's like with my flying career, if you've got a passion and you've got a goal, pursue it, and do it with everything. You're going to struggle. You're going to, like, as I said, have your highs. You're also going to have your lows. But just keep on the path. It's a lovely journey. It's a very fulfilling journey. I think it adds a dimension to life that you cannot experience with your normal domesticated animals. It just broadens your way of thinking about things. Having a wild bird above you waiting on. So for any, I would say, young people trying to, or aspiring falcons, I would say there is a financial implication, but you don't have to have the most expensive equipment. Take your time, build yourself up over time. I would say make sure that you have good mentorships with you or mentors with you, and just try and spend as much time with them in the field, and let them help you through the process. And if you're not confident, don't. Just tell them, and eventually success must show itself if you follow that program. So it's not an unattainable hobby or lifestyle. It's a beautiful one, and I think the falconry community, we need to grow. And as I mentioned earlier, I don't think we're growing a lot. So I would just say, if you've got a goal and a passion, just stick to your guns. The people are there to help you. If they see that you're in it and that you're passionate about it, they'll go out of their way to assist and help, and carry you through the system and the goods and the lows to make you a successful falconer.
Awesome, man. Well, like I said, thanks for giving your time on kind of short notice. And, as a lot of other guys have had to do this week, just kind of, all right, now it's your turn at 2:00, one of those kind of things.
It's only a pleasure. I think this quick quick whiskey helped a bit with it.
Well, hopefully it wasn't too nerve-wracking for you and an
not
enjoyable experience.
No, it was for sure.
But no, I appreciate you. And well, now the good thing is there's no pressure the rest of the day. We can both enjoy and you go hang out. Yeah.
I think you're staying with me before you go back.
Yeah, I think
so. We'll have some more nice falconry conversations over a nice fire.
Sure. Yeah. I think Andres is pawning me off on you the rest of the weekend. So.
It's going to be nice.
Perfect, man.
Great stuff. Thanks, Sean.
Yep, let's have another drink and we'll go hang out.
Good.
Perfect.